what up, dude? Blayne, thank you for being here. What's going on, my friend?
Yeah, cheers.
And Sandy subscribed right after the intro at tier 2 for 10 months. Holy crap, holy Sandy, thank you so much. Means the absolute world.
Yeah, thanks, Sandy.
Thanks, Sandy.
Oh, what's up, Manning?
How's it going, man? How's it going? I didn't usually I try to give a little bit of a blurb intro kind of thing for our guests before we start, but a lot of these maniacs know you. Derpy Paws, thank you so much for the 200 biddies. What an absolute badass. A lot of these people know you, so I thought maybe we should just kick things off by having you, just in case there are some people that don't know you in the tribe. You introducing yourself in your own words.
Yeah, hey, I'm Blayne Smith. I'm MetalComedy on literally anything with a search bar. If you just put MetalComedy in, my thing will pull up, because for some reason, no one took that name. I don't know why. It's crazy. It seems very simple, 2 simple words put together, but no one took it, so you can always find me. And you know, I'm a metal reviewer over at BangerTV. Love promoting underground metal. I'm on Twitch stream video games, metal research, cooking. You know, I just and I'm a stand-up comedian. You know, so I just like to get on anywhere with a microphone and just generally say something dumb.
This is one of the reasons why I usually I put like the band name or the title or the guest's title, content creator, musician, host. But you have a whole bunch of those things. A writer, the comedian. There's it's a little too. How would you summarize it? I mean, I just put MetalComedy at the end because I thought that encapsulated everything. But
perfect.
How do you introduce yourself to someone brand new?
Normally I just say I'm a comedian because you know, it's like I'm not on Banger because of my you know, intense technical guitar playing skills, right? I'm there because I make people laugh. You know, I'm not on Twitch because of my, you know, sick 360 no scope headshots. You know, I'm just trying to make people laugh wherever I go. So generally I go with comedian because, you know, comedians, stand-up comedy is a weird job to do and survive. So you got to stand-up comedians are like cockroaches. Just if we find a way that we can make money while making jokes, we'll fucking scurry in there and you'll never get rid of us.
Let's rewind. I kind of want to go through the journey. I like going through the journey because and we'll get to this a little later. I got introduced to you through BangerTV and specifically through the your affinity with some Lebanese doom death stuff.
Yeah.
But I can speak for a lot of the people in the chat. I know Rami from lebmetal.com is here, who's also a big fan. Yeah, it's how did this all start? Before all of that, when was Blayne's first love for metal and for comedy, whichever one came first? Kind of coming up. And who just did that? Sandy, thank you so much for the 100 biddies. You absolute badass.
Years. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a weird coincidence. I got into comedy and I got into metal at like the same time as a kid, just liking weird stuff, right? You know, as a kid, you're either a normal kid or you're a weird kid, and you find that out pretty soon. And metal and comedy both just are predominantly made and occupied by weird people. So as a kid, I got a Weird Al CD and a Judas Priest CD from a Columbia House catalog, you know, 10 CDs for $1. And that was just it. That was you know, I spent my whole life, you know, I did a little detour into punk music as an unruly teen. But you know, you punk as well goes really well with the comedy because, you know, you get your civil disobedience and you watch The Daily Show and you know, just like, you know, critiquing things, because that's really what comedy is. It's just you criticizing everything. All comedians do is sit around and just tear everything apart. So, you know, it works well with metal and it works well with just you know, being a more out there, kind of not fitting in type of person.
It's really interesting that you say that, because there's a bunch of times on the podcast, on your stream, where you talk about being more of an introvert and at the same time, everything you do is very extroverted. You're very much on stage and stuff. Let me just what's going on, you guys? There's a hype train. First of all, holy crap!
Oh shit, Inky.
Julian Gorilla resubscribed at tier 1. 4 Derpy Paws gifted a tier 1 sub to Vamp Ace, and then 300 biddies. Julian Gorilla with 100 biddies. Incudadalus. My brain just went, I don't know what that is. Incudadalus, thank you so much. Holy crap, gifted 5 tier 1 subs to the community, and the first time here. An absolute fucking badass. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Genuinely appreciate you. Level 3 hype train. You guys, we've been here for 15 minutes. Thank you guys. Lengo213 with the 8 bits. Thank you so much, man. So as I was saying, there's a lot of times where you talked about being very introverted, but everything you're doing is very extroverted. And I remember hearing that you said that there was a lot of, when you first started listening to metal, there was a connection between comics and metal for you.
Yeah. I mean, there's, I think a lot of, people that get into jobs like metal or comedy, it's people are always surprised to find out they're predominantly introverted, because they're like, oh, but you're up on stage and you're making this stuff. And it's like, yeah, but I'm making this up on stage, making this stuff because I'm super introverted. So there's just always this nonstop rattling in my head of an obnoxious voice, and I just need to get it out of my body to kind of to not go crazy. And I think it's the same for a lot of metal musicians, because you can turn it on for a second. You can be like, all right, I'm up on stage for 20 minutes, and a lot of people think that's being extroverted. But the nice thing about being on stage is you really get to choose how much people can interact with you. Yeah. So while it seems like an extroverted thing, really you are kind of still being introverted. You are kind of talking into the void, and as a comic, we get a little bit more back than a metal musician would. But you still can, at the end of the day, if you're getting something back and you don't like it, you can just say something mean about someone's jacket, and then a room full of people will laugh at them, and you can go back to being an introvert.
Yeah, and it being completely socially acceptable. You could just be, technically, maybe even lash out a little bit at someone in a comedic way, and it'll be part of the job. It'll be part of the day.
Yeah. And I mean, if you pick the right person, they love it. They're grinning. They're stoked. That's what they want. I have that kind of relationship with my chat, right? We're just constantly, antagonizing each other. They're insulting me. I'm saying mean things about them. And, if it's not done from a place of actual malice, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, these the tribe over here gives me a lot of shit on a daily basis. They have a list of things where a list of things I fucked up, basically. They have on the Discord server, just writing down everything I said wrong. But I think that's the beauty of this place. I've been on Twitch for 10 months, and it's a completely different relationship. Like you were saying, like there's this introverted, extroverted kind of a thing, and when you are part of the either the stage or the stream or whatever it is, you get to choose what you want to showcase. It's not on all the time, I think.
Right. Yeah, we can just ban people. Yeah, exactly. You can just ban anyone.
Exactly. But it wasn't always grimy underground death metal and doom metal bands for you. It wasn't like that from the get-go. I heard about the double bass and the orchestra days.
Oh yes, yes.
And getting into metal through Metallica's S&M. That's
Yep.
So, tell us a little bit about those days.
Well, as a kid, surprisingly, with how much of a pile I am now, as a kid, I went to a gifted school, and in the gifted school, everyone had to take an instrument, and there was this weird thing that happened where because of, I guess, just the number of the strings versus like brass and woodwinds and everything. If you were in the string section, you got to pick your instrument. If you were in the rest, you might be like, I want to play saxophone, and they're like, too bad, here's French horn. And I was like, I don't want to have any of that shit. So I was like, I want to pick. I went over to strings, and the double bass is just such like it's this giant, like, unwieldy instrument, and it just seemed like really, it seemed like the most aggressive thing in an orchestra. And we were a competitive I was in competitive band. We would go and we would do competitions, and you just do stuff and you want to be good at it, and then you get into it, and then that Metallica S&M album came out, and it was just like, hey, that's that thing I do with that thing I like. This is the perfect marriage of things. Metal and symphony. It's like metal and comedy. And I still there's in the Enter Sandman, it's just in my head. I should put it on my deck as a button. I always remember it in Enter Sandman. There's one part where James Hetfield goes, exit light, what is it? to the crowd, and then the crowd goes Enter Night, and it's like, fucking, it always makes me laugh. And so there's a bit of how we got the comedy into it too, because I've always been something that, like, I find a lot of times when people love something, like they'll love a band, when the band does something like embarrassing, they can't laugh about it. They're always like justifying it and being like, no, he was just getting the crowd pumped up. And with me, I've always been like, no, that was funny. And like, I like when things I like, bands I like fuck something up or do something embarrassing, as long as it's not totally out there, as long as it's not, some iced earth going to a Capitol rally.
Oh, yeah.
As long as it's not that embarrassing, I'm like, hell yeah, I love when people I love embarrass themselves.
But so what actually came first when you look back at those days? Were you always funny? Like, I saw a lot of comedians in documentaries and stuff where they're like, I was just always trying to make jokes. Was it, were you always trying to make jokes and then metal happened, or was it metal and then that kind of culture? Because there's a lot of comedy in the metal ethos anyway. And did you find it through the genre?
I mean, metal is people that like metal, people that make metal. There's only really two categories. Either they will make everything a joke, or nothing is a joke, right? They cannot take a joke in any way.
We're people of extremes.
Yeah. But it was definitely like comedy was one of the first things I really, because like I said, I was a weird kid, and I found a lot of stuff that I liked through comedy, and getting stuff like Garfield books. Like, I loved comic strip, like any way to consume comedy I would find. But I remember I loved comedy so much that I was in grade 6, and I had like books of Dilbert comic strips. In grade 6, this is a comic strip about like the banality of working in a cubicle, and I'm like in grade 6. I don't even know if I understood half the jokes, but I was just like, yeah, give me more comics. Just crushing Dilbert books in grade 6. It really probably seemed like I was going to grow up to be a lot different of a person to my parents at that point.
I think. Well, we have a question from Rami that I just saw. Like you're saying, there's a lot of different things that for me personally, when I look back at the times like when I started, I'm like, how the fuck did that one thing lead to this? How did that lead to where we are now? Which metal albums do you qualify as comedy? All right, we'll get to that one first, but we have another question here in the question queue. How do you intend to deal with your nemesis, Metal Tragedy?
Metal Tragedy. Well, hey, I don't intend to deal with them. I intend to live in. Not quite. Harmony is not the quite word, but you can't have metal comedy without metal tragedy, after all, because metal tragedy plus metal time equals metal comedy, as they say.
That's a good one. I like that one. So how did it go? How did it go from reading comics and digging S&M and starting to dive deeper into the more underground genres to like, this might be me. This is what I do. How did that leap happen?
I think it was just natural, because like I said, I mean, it was the same kind of thing with metal, right? As a kid, I'm like, okay, I like comic strips. Well, let's find all the comic strips. Let's start reading all the comic strips. You know, you're reading Calvin and Hobbes, and that's what you'd figure that would make sense. But then you wind up on Dilbert because you're just like, I just want more. And you know, metal is just something that works so well with that. Just like a really kind of bottomless pit you can keep going down, because compared to any other music genre, and I listen to every music genre. I mean, some of it, there's a lot less in my library of it. You know, I have a harder time finding stuff I like or think is good, but I listen to everything. I listen to absolutely everything. But the amount of different things in metal, the different subgenres, I don't really think any other style of music has so much to like really kind of, so many rabbit holes, so much different stuff, so many different things that you can kind of really just go like, oh, well, I can, you know, every month I do 2 streams where I just sit there for like 5 hours listening to and roasting albums that are coming out that month. Like, that's so crazy to me, and I love doing it. And it just, you know, I've tried to do it with other genres, and it's just like harder and doesn't work as well. And there isn't the obsessive cataloging. There's not metal archives for most other genres, right? Because this is, you know, it's that this kind of brain really goes well with metal more than anything else.
When did that start? Because like, there's a lot of fucking metalheads. A lot of people that like even more extreme kind of the extreme side of the spectrum when it comes to metal. No, not a lot of people go deep diving on Bandcamp for a couple of hours, a couple of times a month, looking for brand new underground, unheard metal bands. Where does that passion of like supporting, first of all, finding and then supporting the underground scene come from?
A lot of it is because of black metal, to be honest. I was working in a record store in my like early 20s called Rotate This, which is like it's the best record store in Toronto. I was working there, and there was like this thing called Wrath of the Week that I stumbled on, and it was like weird like black metal like noise plus noise, and I was like, oh, this is weird. This doesn't really sound like anything I've really heard before, because at that time, like, the black metal I had heard was more like, you know, the kind of big, you know, mainstream black metal bands that are, you know, big and symphonic and really don't sound like, you know, the kind of lo-fi black metal that I really like now. And I heard this and I was like, oh, let's try and find some more stuff like this. And I just happened to look for black metal in this period when everybody was just uploading albums to Mediafire, and there was like no moderation or like checking to see if there was copyrighted material. It was like a second wave of Napster. It was just like suddenly Mediafire came out and people were like, well, let's just upload full albums and have a blog spot where I'm just constantly uploading albums. And so I just stumbled upon a couple of blogs that would just post like the most like basement ass black metal projects you could think of. And so I would like download 10, and you know, one of them would be good, but one of them I would absolutely love. And I was like, okay. So I started just following these blogs. And then eventually people realized that, like, I guess it's technically a crime what everybody's doing. So Mediafire like got basically that, you know, put a kibosh to that. And I was like, shit. Well, how do I keep finding, you know, weird black metal made by one guy that doesn't talk to anyone now that I can't do that? So I, you know, started just looking through metal archives, doing it a little bit with black metal. And then the inner obsessive compulsive came out. And then I realized I could look every month. And then there was like a tiny voice in my brain that was like, what if you miss a really good album that comes out and you never hear it? And I'm like, whatever, man, that's not going to happen. And then that obsessive compulsive disorder just starts picking at that idea, and it gets larger and larger. And it's like, well, thanks, brain. Now I have to open everything that comes out on Metal Archives every month. And when I was doing it on my own, like privately, before I was even affiliated with Banger, I wasn't doing it quite as thoroughly as I do it now. Like if I opened something and it said like a genre I know I don't like, or I just looked at the band photo and they looked stupid, I was just like, close. But now I feel like I have an obligation, everyone, and we check everything. And holy hell is it. It's It's upsetting when I find good stuff now because it's so much more fun finding the bad stuff.
And for those that haven't seen it before, this happens on your Twitch stream, with everyone in chat, and you guys discuss, roast, and if you like something, you control tab it, so you save it for maybe a second listen. It's one of the best things I've seen on Twitch. And let's go back a little bit. When was the stand-up comedy kicking off? How did that come about?
That came about like as a weird kind of accident, because I had always, again, just loved any type of comedy. In Canada, we have this thing called the Just for Laughs Festival, and the Just for Laughs actually is just on TV all the time as a result. So there's a lot of like just stand up on TV. Like I would come home and there was these 2 shows back to back. There was Just for Laughs would put on their comedy, and then there was this show after called Comedy at Club 54. And Just for Laughs is an international festival. It's one of the best comedy festivals in the world. And Comedy at Club 54 is a weird comedy club run by like a really shady guy. And so you would simultaneously, you'd see like the best comics in the world. And then after it, you'd see like these like local weird comics that can't get on, there would occasionally be a good one, but most of them were like people that couldn't get on Just for Laughs. So you really got these 2 extremes, and I would watch the Just for Laughs and love how amazing all the comedians were. And then I would watch Comedy at Club 54 and love how terrible a lot of the comedians were. It was a back-to-back. It was very similar to the Metal Monthly research streams. And I always loved comedy, but this was like a really damaging way to consume comedy, because in my head I went, okay, well, I don't think I can be as funny as like Norm Macdonald, right? So if I'm not as funny as Norm Macdonald, I'm going to be one of these guys on a Comedy at Club 54, and I do not want to do that. So I never tried to do stand-up comedy, and I just wound up teaching and stuff. I was teaching in France, and I was having a conversation with someone, and I was telling them about this, and they're like, no, there's like a middle tier of comedians. There's not just the penthouse and the basement. There's a middle tier of comedians that you might not know because you haven't reached, if you don't, comedy is not well disseminated for some reason still. So it can be hard to find these like kind of, comics that make a living and are funny, but like aren't, in movies and stuff. And I kind of started thinking, okay, maybe I could try it. And then every stand-up comedian will tell you this. When you start doing stand-up comedy, suddenly every couple months, some motherfucker you went to high school with or some guy you met one time will send a message to you and be like, hey, I heard you started doing stand-up comedy. I always wanted to try that. And 9 times out of 10, you go, okay, here's how you start. And then they never do because they just have like a fantasy about doing it. And then 1 time out of 10, someone pursues it. So I was that guy to somebody. And comedy is very weird. It's very much, it's almost like it has to be like passed from person to person. Because it's one of those things where you go like, how do I start doing this? And the way you start doing it is you go to like a very depressing bar and you write your name down on a very depressing sheet of paper. And then a train of very depressing men comes up and tells very depressing comedy. And then you get up and in your head, you've been watching this whole show and you go, boy, they all sucked. I'm going to go up there and crush it. And then you go up and then you also suck. And then you realize comedy is a skill like anything. It's like guitar, right? You got to keep doing it and practicing it. But the hard thing with comedy is the only way to really practice comedy is on a stage in front of human beings. So it's very upsetting and punishing to do because you have to like, you spend all day writing this joke. You're like, this joke's sick. I can't wait to do this wicked joke. And then you go up and you find out that the joke's not funny. And you're like, no, that joke's funny. And then you try it like 4 more times and you're like, never mind. I now have a focus group of like 80 people that are all like, that was not funny. And it's a weird time. And then And then the flip side is you write something and it's really funny and you go out and tell it and you're loving it. But then every once in a while, do you know this joke is funny? You have like empirical evidence. You can like write down the amount of people that laughed at this joke and think it's funny. And then you'll go out and you'll tell it for a group of people and they'll all look at you and go, it's not funny. And you go, no, I know it's funny. The problem is you. And they all go, well, no. And you just have to take it.
Oh, look, Moshing Mustafa's out to party. Thank you, Lingo, for Moshing Mustafa. And Matsam Kabadi, thank you so much for the 300 biddies. For those that don't know, this is our friend Moshing Mustafa. He is the ultimate Arab metalhead. He comes out. You can redeem him whenever you want to bust a move. It's pretty crazy that you go from like big band orchestra stuff to stand-up comedy, because going from a band, I can imagine. I've never done anything close to like a stand-up comedy, but having the team element to being solely responsible for absolutely everything. Like you're saying, you write this joke, you think it's funny, you go test it, and if it doesn't do well or it does well, the responsibility is entirely on you. Basically, trial error, everything is 100% on you.
Yeah. Which is rough when it's going poorly. But the flip side is that when you have a good show, you're like, oh, you know who helped me with that? Nobody. You know who I have to share this glory with? Nobody. There's a very unique, like I've played music live, both in orchestra and bands. There's a very unique feeling to going up, using your words to make like a whole room, a whole theater of people laugh. Like when you want them to, it's very intoxicating. You feel very powerful. It's a very unique feeling, and you know you can see how much people love this feeling, because like, you know, you'll go see bands and like the guy in the band will be like still cracking some jokes to the crowd, right? Because he like tried it once at a show and they laughed and he was like, oh well, I know I'm in this big band and I have an actual career and job I do, but I still want to get some laughs when we're like tuning. Because it's crazy how good it feels. You know, you watch guys doing TED Talks and they're like doing a TED Talk about some picking locks, and then every like 3 minutes in this picking lock thing, they're like trying out a joke. They're like, tossing it out, because they're like, I know I really like talking about picking locks, but when you guys laugh, it feels really good.
I've done some poking. I was that guy, like you said. I was the guy that was like, comedy. I love it. Like I love consuming it. So I thought maybe at some point I would be able to do it. But goddamn, it is intoxicating and it is addictive when it goes right. I know from a bunch of friends of mine. But it's not as easy as it looks. When I've seen when some people work on writing, whether it was a sketch or stand-up comedy, it's goddamn stressful. Yeah. It seems very stressful. And I just want to say, Epic 0007, thank you so much for tier 1 at 10 months. 10 months. You've been here from day one, my dude. Thank you so much. An absolute badass. But yeah, it does seem very stressful. And one thing that I've heard is comedy and comics in general have the same kind of anthropological thing that Sam Dunn did when it came to metal, that like there is a group mentality and they do huddle up and have like a separate community, underground community, and have their own zingers and stuff. Is that true?
Oh, incredibly. Like really every comedian, all they want to do, they don't even want to do stand-up comedy. They just want to hang out with comics. Like making comics laugh, you would take over making audience laugh. It gets very cliquey, like, because people have different styles of humor, right? Comedy is a weird thing where for some reason stand-up comedy's never really been genreized in the same way like metal, but there's a lot of different genres in comedy, and you tend to kind of hang out with people that do a similar style of comedy to you, because off stage you can continue joking with these people. But yeah, it's exhausting, but also the best to be friends with comics, because like you can't do anything without it being like the instant something comes into focus. Like you get like a new jacket and the jacket's a little flashy and you wear it to like the comedy club, you know that at least that night, if not the next like month, you're just, every time you walk in, there's going to be some cracks about your jacket. There's, you know, it's like just merciless. You know, you get a new haircut, people are just gonna be, you're gonna walk into a place with your new haircut and every single person is gonna be like, you look like blank, and blank is never gonna be complimentary.
Yeah. Yeah, and that grows thicker skin. That's what I love about it. And something that we like you said, it's either on either end of the spectrum. Like when it comes to metalheads, you either joke about everything or you joke about nothing. And I feel like at least our circle of you know, people are more on the joke about everything end of the spectrum, and not necessarily, even though the music specifically you listen to, I mean, I'm just looking at the banners right there. They're not joke looking banners.
I know, right?
Did you just break something while we were doing that?
I didn't break it. It's you know, it's I hit something hanging on the wall. No, I mean, it's, you know, it doesn't, but it's like, I don't know. It's always like, I have like almost everything about these, like there's like a joke I have and a sense of humor I have about it. Tribulation, I mean, he recently left, but one of the guitar players is a very pretty man. And so I'm always pretending I don't know that he's not a girl. You know, Autre Tom I love, because they're just like French people that don't know what the internet is. I picked that album as my album of the year, and so like there's a guy I know that knows them, and they were like confused as to what even was happening. Like after I did that, you know what I mean? And then, you know, we've got Halder, and it's, you know, it's great. It's like one woman black metal, and you know, one man black metal is such a cliche, and it's so, you know, it all just lends itself to comedy. Everything, if you just come at it from a comedy lens, there's like this great comedy with everything, and you know, it all works. It makes life fun.
I want to jump into the question queue real quick, because this is one of the questions that Rami from lebmetal.com asks. He says, which metal albums do you think qualify as comedy?
Well, I mean, there's some metal albums that qualify as comedy on purpose, and then there's some metal albums that qualify as like comedy on accident, right? I mean, you know, something like Cradle of Filth is always going to make me laugh, because it's just so much, and and it's very over the top, and it doesn't seem like it's over. It never seems like there's like an acknowledgement that everything's pretty hilarious from the core of the band. So that stuff's always going to make me laugh. But you know, I mean, you have to assume that there's comedy involved in death metal, otherwise everybody's pretty messed up, right? Like a Cannibal Corpse album has to have some comedy in there. Part of it has to be that it's kind of funny what they're saying. Otherwise that's dark, right? That's a little too dark if there's not like a fun element to it. I think a lot of, and I mean black metal, right? Part of it is that it's so ridiculous. Like, you know, like a bunch of Norwegian guys burning churches and murdering each other is like for music that like 30 people are going to hear. It's like wild, right? That's, you know, it's like dark and scary, but it's also very funny. It's very funny. You know, when, I mean, you know, like look at how many memes and stuff there are of like the Necromerger. Oh, I was on my way to kill Euronymous too. Like what? Like,
it is. That's the thing that I think, I don't know, man, but the people that do take it seriously, like you said, it's on the other end of the spectrum. Like they don't fuck around with it, but it is kind of crazy. Junior has a question as well from When the World Burns, Lebanese death metal. Thank you so much for being here, man. One metal album you would never make fun of or would be offended if anyone made fun of.
I don't, it doesn't exist. You know, I think one of the things that we should take from metal is that there's nothing like holy, right? There's nothing beyond reproach, you know. There's nothing that I think we should like deify to that level. I mean, you know, there's metal albums that depending on how someone's making fun of them, I would get pissed, right? But I don't think there's anything untouchable. There should never be anything untouchable, because, you know, I mean, for the main reason there shouldn't be anything untouchable is the instant you tell me I can't touch something, I'm going to be like,
that's exactly why.
No.
Yeah, I think I have the exact same instinct. As soon as you tell me you're not allowed to do something, or you shouldn't be doing something, that's exactly when I'm like, but that's exactly what I want to do right now.
Right.
So hopefully that answers your question, Junior. And thank you for being here, my dude. I wanted to jump into you know, stand-up comedy. You started hosting a couple of comedy spots. I think it was called the Comedy Bar.
Yeah.
And it, you know, hosting the night. How did you go from that to BangerTV? Where was that link? Because see, this is why I keep asking about links, because I did my research. I did a couple of a couple of things to figure out what we wanted to talk about. And it feels like you don't jump ship, but you just add more stuff to the same car. It's just you just started adding things.
Yeah, it's a problem where you're like, it's that thing where you're like, well, I'd like to make more money, so I'll put this on top. I can make more money here, but I should probably just keep that old way of making money as well. It was a total fluke. Banger was a total just, you know, nice kismet thing where Lisa Ladder-Sayre, the old producer, just saw me do stand-up comedy and was like, oh, you like metal? Why don't you just come hang out and do the Death Doom episode, because everybody knows how I feel about Death Doom. And you know, it's a thing that a lot of people don't realize, where, you know, the Banger had has a great following, but everyone there is like, you know, Sam's an anthropologist, you know, Brad and Sarah are journalists, DK's a guitar player, I'm a comedian. My whole thing is I'm supposed to like entertain people, and you know, education is the core of what we do, but you know, I took the education, just put some, you know, a different spin on it that there isn't that much representation for. There isn't that many people doing that. And so, you know, when you want someone to like be critical and thoughtful, Sarah's great for that. When you want someone to kind of have like to sit there and be like, oh God, what gag is this moron gonna do in this video? You know what I mean? Like it's nice to kind of not replace one thing, not have one thing be better than the other, just kind of add to the stable and present that variety where we can kind of you know, do all these different things.
Yeah, I think, and I believe that was the very first one, and if I remember correctly, Sam Dunn actually says, and our very first comedian on the show, as he was introducing you. So you were there for, I remember talking to Daniel DK about this. You know, there's this first live stream, they're going to do Lockhorns. And were you on Twitch at that time?
No. I got into that after. I'm going to take a quick second to go to the bathroom.
Do you think?
Be right back.
Do you think I'll jump in the chat? I'll jump in the chat. Let's see who's here. Bleeding, what's going on, my dude? Thank you for being here. What an absolute badass. Talking about Death Doom, but I hope to be around a lot more. Wait, I just jumped to two different things. Talking about Death Doom, I see the rules are different here. Yeah, they had the slash. They were talking about that slash. First guest BB break. Yeah, I think it. No, we've had BB breaks before. We've done the BBs before. Who else is in the house? Prodigal Space is in the house. Epic, I've been a bit busy, but I hope to be around a lot more. Thank you so much, my dude. What an absolute badass. Homemade Spritzer is having its effect. Ask him about wet pets. Ooh. I don't know what that means. Just wet pets. Rules? Do we have rules here? We do not. We absolutely do not. No. But yeah, we'll ask him. There's a couple of weird things in the chat, man. Wet pets? What are you talking about? What's wet pets?
Wet pets. Yeah, no, it's a running gag on my stream. I pee a lot. I'm basically my body. I assume that if you've seen that episode of The Simpsons where there's that tiny horse and Bart has to like muck its stall and the horse just shits an insane amount and Bart goes, maybe you wouldn't be so small if you didn't, shit so much. I mean, it was The Simpsons, so I don't know if he was saying shit, but that's basically. I think I'm a tiny horse.
Okay, and by the way, everyone's asking, can we talk about Doom Death here?
So this is probably one of the things I'm most passionate about in life. My Death Doom is my favorite genre of music, and sometimes people call it Doom Death instead of Death Doom, and this infuriates me.
Wait, is that what it said over here? Oh no, it said Death Doom. Okay,
Death Doom. Don't worry, I would have walked out. This is the thing I'm super passionate about. It's a weird thing to be passionate about. It's very specific, but we're metalheads. Everything's weird and specific. So the reason Death Doom is great, and anyone who says Doom Death is a moron, is because it's a mouth thing, right? It's a linguistic thing. When you say Death Doom and duh, your mouth, going from a TH to a D sound is very close in terms of the shape your mouth has to make. Going from an M to a D is like
Doom Death.
Right? You can't Death Doom Death. Like you can feel your mouth trip over the shift it has to make. Mm-hmm. And it's like the reason you don't really see that many M's and D's together in language, because it just doesn't feel good. You don't want to put those letters beside each other because you have to you trip over a fence. You're like going over you have to like step over the words. Doom Death.
Death Doom. Yeah, it makes sense. Right? Makes sense. See, I'm Arab, so the M and the D thing is like in all our names. So it's just, I wouldn't have picked it up phonetically like that. But,
right? Yeah. But, so that's why it should be Death Doom and not Doom Death, especially when I have to talk about it all the time because it's my favorite genre of music. I'm not going to be tripping over that M to D hop every time I talk about my favorite genre of music. So in my chat, it's a banned word. It's just my auto mod just deletes it from the chat. And so yeah.
Well, you guys can let off some steam by saying Doom Death. I see a lot of you guys are saying Doom Death already. Upsets Blayne almost as much as Drop Shadows. I don't know what that is either.
So this is another thing that drives me crazy is a lot of the times people will take a nice piece of album art, right? Have a nice piece of album art and they'll put their logo on top of it. And instead of like hiring like an artist to like put the logo in tastefully and maybe like color match it to the artwork so it's all kind of one coherent piece, they slap it over top of everything and they put a drop shadow. And a drop shadow is when you put like a little shadow under the words, and it just looks ridiculous. It just looks like it looks like there's a cellophane wrapper and a sticker with the band logo over top of this nice artwork. And very frequently, I'm always pointing this out, there's like frequently issues with the drop shadow. Like generally if someone's done it, they've just clicked something in Photoshop. So like there'll be like conflicting light sources and all these things that I'm being obsessive to go on about, but it's these weird little things that people do notice. They just don't know they're noticing it. Like there's a reason that people accidentally just started saying Death Doom over Doom Death predominantly. And probably someone didn't think about that. They just like saying it the one way better. And it's a thing where you look at album art and generally you go, oh, I really like this album art for some reason. You don't realize it's because there's not an ugly drop shadow, conflicting light sources. There's all kinds of things like that.
My version of the drop shadow is the really obnoxious and thick stroke. They just add the black outline around any of the logos. And it happened whenever we would play shows and someone would just pop in all the logos, different colors, and then just add that black stroke over all the band logos, and it would look horrific. Yeah. That was my version of that. Tell him about version versus version. Listen, Belfagor, we're not talking about those. Those are the banned words here. You guys can't use that word. They say I say the word version wrong, but that's another story. Don't put up the version logos, you guys.
Get them out. I like it. Here, I'll get it.
Barrier writes, thank you for the follow. Welcome to the tribe, my friend. Appreciate you being here. Let's. I wanted to dive into a little bit. So that was one of the things that DK and I touched on. You had your first live streams pre-Twitch, both of you guys on BangerTV.
Yeah.
Did you, when you were doing that first live stream, did you ever think, hey man, you know what? I might be a streamer next. Like how live streaming the first time for BangerTV, cut to you doing it a bunch of times a week.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I had watched Twitch, right? Because I do play a lot of video games, and I had always liked Twitch and watched Twitch, but Twitch is like a really hard thing to like just raw get started on, right? Like if you're not coming from somewhere, if it's not like something, it's just like you playing video games, it's really hard to get people to see your channel, and then you're just kind of sitting there talking to yourself. And it feels like weird and depressing. And I get to talk to people for a job, and the people tend to be, like human people that are in existence. And so it's depressing to do it on Twitch. So after I was on Banger for a little bit, I was like, oh, I wonder if I just say I have a Twitch stream on Banger, I can then just start a Twitch stream. And Banger kind of gave me that nice little bump to be able to do that. But it's super fun. I mean, it's really like when people don't watch Twitch, they're always like, how do you just sit there and watch someone play video games or something? That's the kind of, comment you'll get from a lot of people who don't really participate in Twitch. But then like you find some like kind of, especially like some smaller communities, and then you're like there's really an interactive nature to it. It's really a unique thing that you can only get on Twitch or, Twitch-like platforms. And then some of like the big creators, like depending on what they do, can be, I'm a big fan. I like comedy, and I would say 99% of Twitch streamers are horrendously unfunny. But like there's a couple that, I mean, Eris is like hilarious, right? Eris is, I really like fighting games, and there's just a lot of really good creators in the fighting game community. And I think part of it is because fighting games have a very similar like nature to the community that both like metal and stand-up comedy do, and that it's a very like friendly, hostile environment. Like, like it's your friends, but if you beat them at a match, you're gonna call them a stupid bitch, and that's acceptable. That's acceptable behavior. And so I think like that kind of friction between people really breeds comedy. And so there's like Eris on avoiding the puddle, Sajam, Anime Illuminati are like all like people that are actually like I can watch and they're funny. And it's like weird to see people that haven't done stand-up comedy, but you see them with like the same or similar like instincts or skills or mechanics that they've developed through something slightly different.
Yeah, like I said, for me, I actually made a Twitch account for this. Like I didn't have it. I didn't watch anybody before that. And a lot of people make fun of me for this. I used to stream on Facebook before this. When the pandemic hit, I started the podcast, and I was like, yo, I'm going to talk to a bunch of people. I know a lot of people in the music industry. I might ask them a couple of questions here and there. And it was a Facebook stream. And then I met a couple of people that were like, oh, you're streaming. Why aren't you doing it on Twitch? And I thought, I said, isn't that just for gamers? I didn't know you could.
Right. You
could do anything else. And
you can do okay. You can get your tits out and paint them in a hot tub. You can do it.
How did anyone tell you about my next stream? How did that? But yeah, as soon as I moved here and started streaming, and you could do the commands and we make them light fires, and there's a whole bunch of stuff. The no is off, Derpy. I know what you're trying to do, but we turn a bunch of them off for the podcast. But I started falling in love with the streaming part of it even more. Yeah. And then I got the same question, but my question was they kept asking, how do you just sit in a room and talk to yourself in front of a camera for a long time? And I was like, it looks like that, but it's really not. Yeah. You are genuinely interacting with people. They just don't have the microphone on. But it's it is a community.
Oh, for sure. And you really appreciate people who do it when you start doing it a little bit, because, I play video games. And so I'll play games that I've played before and I'll play them on stream, and I am worse at them when I'm streaming because like there's so much of your mental energy is taken up by first talking and trying to be entertaining. It's second, like monitoring the chat, interacting with people there. You don't realize that like how much, and you stream for like when I do those like 5-hour Metal Monthly research streams, I have a blast. But at the end, I am like more exhausted than coming in when I used to do like demolition. You'd come in from work. It's like draining because you're like really putting so much out there. He loves to make this excuse.
That's funny. But yeah, it is. It's a lot of work, and like I know a lot of the tribe know this. I spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to do things, like the redeems. Dude, we were basically coding the other day just to try and get one of the redeems to pop up the right way, and the number comes up and then the name shows up, and I was like, I never thought in my wildest dreams that I'd be sitting here trying to write code for a fucking Twitch stream. I never thought this would happen. But you've been there for you've been here for about 3 years. Has it been 3-4 years on Twitch?
A little over 3, yeah.
And just last night there was you're doing a partner push. You're almost there. I'm almost there. Yeah. Partner tick and all the benefits that come with that and that stuff.
Yeah, I'm trying. Part of it is like the nature of like the comedian in my brain, where it's like there is that kind of for the first couple of years that I did it, I wasn't even like posting on social media and stuff that I was doing it. I would mention on Banger and that was it. Because for some reason in my head it was like, oh, I don't want to bother people with like constantly talking about my streams or saying that I'm streaming. And I was like, wait a minute, people want to watch me stream. Why am I not advertising this? So with COVID, I've had more time and I've just been pushing the streams. And suddenly it was like, oh, if you advertise that you're streaming and like actually put some effort into it, you lazy asshole, it goes really well and it's successful.
If you tell people where to go, they might show up. If I could start again, if I could do it again from the beginning, I would have, because I was pushing DK to get on it for like ever. I was like, dude, come on, like you should get on Twitch, you'll have fun, blah blah blah. And I was telling him like what I was doing, and then DK comes on, and DK is like, he's like a social media, he's like a marketing, like an internet marketing whiz. Like he's had that from all his bands, he sets up tours. He's a very good at promotion. And he came on and like, I was like, you should come on, I'll show you the ropes. And I showed him the ropes, and then he like buried me in like 2 months, right? Like it's just buried me. And I was like, oh yeah, I guess maybe I should try and do like a third of the effort that DK puts in at the very least. Yeah, we were talking about it, and he had the same idea I did when you told him. He told us about you telling him about joining Twitch and stuff, and it's like, I don't play games. I have an old MacBook or whatever. I think were the words he said. But yeah, insane guy, very hardworking, and I've learned a lot from him. He was also one of the first batch of people that I reached out to on the platform and started watching and stuff. And it's an insane community, to be honest, especially the metal community on Twitch. It's very tight knit. Feels like a scene. Feels like its own little version of a scene.
Yeah, everybody adapted really quickly. Just a bunch of people that are used to, hey, I'm used to playing guitar every night. I kind of still need to do that. Otherwise, this pandemic is going to go really rough for me. And yeah, the metal Twitch has really exploded in a way that, like, again, it's that metal thing, right? It's like, there's metal archives. Metal archives doesn't exist for other genres. Like the Twitch metal community, it doesn't really exist for other genres. It's pretty crazy to see like how industrious metal people are.
Yeah. And just how much they gravitate and find each other. It's like it's like no other community I've seen. But speaking of those things, with your deep dives and with Twitch and Banger, everything came together when one day you found a Lebanese death doom metal. just wanted to make sure I didn't say it wrong. Chaotion.
Yeah, and, that was super.
You wanted to highlight them on Banger TV.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know this, but that was a big fucking deal for the Middle Eastern scene. I remember people sharing that link on WhatsApp, like it was wildfire. Like, dude, someone fucking found the band from this region, and people lost their minds. People were sharing that link everywhere, and everyone was talking about like how crazy it was for Chaotion to be on Banger. Was this one of the Twitch deep dives? Because I remember Twitch was active then.
Yeah, no, I wasn't doing the Twitch deep dives then yet. Well, I was doing the deep dives. I just wasn't doing them on Twitch because I didn't realize people would want to watch that. It was, one of those weird deep dives where my whole thing, right, is I do just go and try and find the best metal I can find, but also I want to find stuff that is different, because the whole purpose of metal is that we like being different and finding different stuff. And I love how international metal is, and I love spotlighting people that I know are doing stuff as well as everybody else. And the only difference is they're in a region of the world where they just don't get that spotlight shone on them. And if they do get that spotlight shone on them, it's by being like twice as good as everybody else, right? That's the only way to attract the attention. So I always try, and if I'm deciding between two bands and I find a band that's like, oh, well, this band will probably get talked about, but this band is not going to get talked about because no one's going to find them if people don't help people find them. I'm a big left-wing guy. I'm big on, just everybody coming together and us all being one nice big family. I'm in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and it's there's articles. I don't know how you validate or research this, but people say it's the most multicultural city in the world. So I really kind of have absorbed that by growing. I lived my whole life in Toronto, grew up in Toronto, and all I've seen as a result of a bunch of different people coming together is like exclusively benefits to everybody. And so that's my whole thing. That's my whole MO. I want, I want everything to be like that. And so it was really great to find Chaotion, because it was like, here you go. Here's a perfect thing. Lebanon. I can't think. I couldn't name another Lebanese metal band. So here we go. Here we got one. Let's get hype. Let's go.
And it really did feel like that. I'm from me personally, from my perspective, like it really did feel like someone just went, "Hey guys," and just like that little bit of a spotlight on the region, because Banger TV is a massive platform, obviously, and you guys had a lot of attention on it, and just highlighting one band. This was before you're doing the full Lebanon extreme metal. Before doing Chaotion's second album, all that stuff. It was just highlighting one band. It was for the old guys like me, where we've been around for a while. No one's ever hit that spotlight on the region. Not unless it was PR based, kind of paid for, like it was in a magazine or something, but just someone out of their own free will just went, "Hey man, I like this," and I'm shining light. It was very inspirational. It was a lot of people. There was a lot of people. I know Junior, When the World Burns, is listening in. It was one of those things that everyone's like, "Hey man, someone gives a shit." Yeah, right. Because this region's a little underrepresented in the global scene.
And yeah, it just feels good for everybody, right? Like I feel good, and then I find this, I like it, I share it. That band gets help, they feel good, and then the scene feels good, and then I've gotten a lot of people expressing that to me, and that feels great to me. And then it's this beautiful, nice, happy relationship where everybody is just feeling good. And it's like, look, I love depressing metal, but that doesn't mean I don't want to feel good all the time. And boy, what a great way to feel good all the time, baby.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my next question. And Judo Chop Viking, thank you so much for hitting that follow, my friend. Welcome to the tribe. My next question was going to be that was just one interaction that I know of for a band that's from this region, and I know how much it affected them. I know how much it affected the local metal scene, and I say a region because it's so small here. It's not Lebanon versus Dubai versus Jordan. It's just one fucking. It's the Middle Eastern metal scene here. And have you had any interactions with other bands that you sought out, liked, shouted out, or something that just blew their minds? Because some of the bands that you shouted out, I've gone and checked, and they're very underground. It's not a band that would expect to be anywhere near Banger or on your Twitch channel.
Yeah, I mean, I was really happy to and I've had Facebook contact with the Slave to Sirens group there. Added a bunch of them on social media. They really appreciated the representation and getting, again, just that spotlight over there. And it's just cool to see people get hyped and excited and happy when you do that. And then and I honestly, one of the greatest feelings is about the shows I do is Metal Monthly. The amount of times that I put a band in there, and I always try and make it a surprise. I try and not let bands know that I'm going to do it before it comes out, because I kind of just like to, I imagine that is a really cool feeling when you suddenly you open you go to sleep, you wake up, you open your phone and are like, what is happening? Yeah. I've had bands that didn't quite figure out how it happened. They were just like, thanks for reaching out and sending me the video, because we were looking at these analytics confused. Just last month I put Lang, which was a band from Taiwan. They were one of my picks, and I absolutely loved the album. And I sent them the thing, and he said, "Amazing, thanks so much. We've seen so many new pre-orders since you posted this. I really appreciate it. That's great to hear, because really, a lot of people think, oh, reviewers are just people that wanted to be in a metal band but couldn't be in a metal band. I don't want to be in a metal band. I want to be a comedian. I love being a comedian. What I do want to do is I want to promote, share, and celebrate metal bands that are wicked and that I can, and that, that's legitimately what I want to do. I'm not in there for any other reason. And it's really awesome that that's what I'm getting to do and what I'm doing.
It's really fucking cool, and it is one of the things that I think. I don't know. We've had this conversation with one of our other guests. The idea of reviewing albums, the old school way, there's the guy in the magazine that gives you out of 5 stars and stuff. You guys have completely flipped that upside down, because it's not just a very underrepresented opinion with a number. You really deep dive into it. You go almost track by track for the most part, and state your opinion and what it reminds you of, and how it made you feel that time, and why you thought this way. And I think you guys changed the game when it comes to reviewing albums in general, and the fact that they're underground just adds to that.
Yeah, I mean, my philosophy of the reviewing has always been I am not a necessarily particularly skilled musician. And music has just been one of those things where I've tried it in my life, and I had some success in an orchestra, but guitar, I play drums a bit, but I have a guitar. I've tried to learn it. I can't. I don't know. It just doesn't work for me. And so I'm not particularly a musically minded person. So when I do a review, I'm literally just sitting down and I'm just telling people how the music makes me feel. And I think there's a lot of the times some people can get hung up on things where they think I have to talk about, or I have to mention, or I have to think about if, what this scale that they're using and whether that's good or not. And I don't know, man. I think most people that are getting music also don't necessarily know why they like things. It's like I was talking about with Death Doom, right? People just like things instinctively, and trying to identify what makes an album instinctively likable, I think, is part of the reason people like my reviews, is that I'm presenting it hey, I mean, I like this, and this gives me this feeling, and I think it'll give you that feeling too. And if this is the feeling you're looking for, here's the album for you. And then people put it on and they go, yep, that's exactly what it did.
Yeah, I think like you said, because you come at it as a fan first before anything else, and I think that is the best way.
Yeah.
Ozzy Rule 777, thank you so much for the biddies. Blayne is a nerd. See you on your stream later, dude. Yeah, for everyone that's here, we're gonna be raiding over. We're gonna be throwing this party over right after the podcast. So stick around, and then we'll go over to MetalComedy and we'll party over there for the rest of the night or day if you guys are EST. I want to jump into talking a little bit about, like, you were put in this world, and now you're reviewing albums, you're hosting stuff. There's a whole other thing, and there's a couple of interviews you started doing. Is interviewing something that you thought you'd be doing beforehand, or did it just fall into the category of, the content creator / dude in front of the camera kind of vibe?
Yeah, it was just kind of one of those happy accidents, and I don't even really necessarily like think of what I was doing as like interviewing, because I was really just trying to have just chatting. And I mean, I think there's like kind of two different things, and I think interviews are great, and I watch a lot of interviews, but again, it's that thing where I'm like, a little bit is like, boy, do I hate working. I know I work a lot, but I really wish I didn't. So how can I make an interview and not have it be anything like work? How can I just, and so I just always tried to approach things as a conversation. And also I am like an insane person. I really have clearly, as we've learned, I have a lot of pet peeves with the way a lot of people do a lot of things. So I just tried to interview in a way that I didn't hit any of my own personal pet peeves.
See, this is why I'm asking, because I stumbled into this by complete accident. Like I said, this I've never done anything like this before. I dabbled in some content creation before. I was kind of a consultant coming from a film background for a lot of social media people in Dubai, and there's a lot of them here. But it wasn't the kind of social media that you and I would like. It was very commercial, very industry-based social media stuff. And then when the pandemic hit, I was like, I have a camera, I have a microphone, I have a lot of friends. Maybe we can start interviewing them. But it's been a very steady curve trying to learn how to have a conversation with people, because like I said, I am very introverted as well and stuff. But sometimes these things don't go as planned. Like you said, you're interviewing someone, there's a bunch of pet peeves, there's a bunch of miscommunication, there's a bunch of awkward moments and stuff like that. And I wanted to specifically ask you about David Vincent. There's the legend. There's an awkward one.
That was.
Can we talk a little bit about that?
I love looking back on that interview. I love to just think about it, and it gives me such an amazing, hearty belly laugh. But I will tell you this: when I was doing that interview, when like you feel like you have like a fever because of how this is not going well. You're fucking dying. You're so embarrassed, and you just feel like I feel like I've broken out in a fever. I think I have the flu during this interview.
So for those that don't know, because it's not online, I don't know if there is a place where you might be able to find it. But David Vincent of Morbid Angel. Can you set up the scene? There was an interview. You're doing an interview. I've had an awkward kind of situation with him. Luckily, it wasn't recorded. But I've personally had the interaction and know how intense it could be. I thought it'd be an interesting deep dive here.
Oh man. So yeah, we were doing an interview, and it's over the phone, right? So there's already a bit of a barrier. It's already a little awkward. Phone interviews are always a little more awkward to do. And it was just like, I am a specific type of person, and David Vincent is a specific type of person. He's very intense. It's like one of the few times that you meet someone from a band and it feels like they're like from that band. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh shit, this feels like not a human being. This feels like an entity of Morbid Angel, like I'm interacting with more than, and just my personality. A lot of people some people do not like my personality, and I understand and accept that. And David Vincent and I can tell would never be like buddies. It's David Vincent. I'm not the type of guy for David Vincent. David Vincent, from what I can tell, doesn't joke a lot. And my whole thing about the interviewing is that I've done a lot of interviews now too. And you realize that a lot of the times people ask you a question that you've answered like 12 times and you'll answer it and it's fine. But in my whole head, I'm like, I want this to be a fun time that they remember. And, I was successful in that a lot, where I made friendships with people by doing it in a certain way. David Vincent didn't. So a lot of my questions are silly, and they're not really questions you normally get. And they're not really about anything that matters. And David Vincent did not expect or want those type of questions. I was just I got him. I had because I'm basically writing down jokes, right? I love doing it. I had 10 of them. I got to number 3, and then I was just X. I'm bailing on the rest of these 7. Number 3, I sort of got him to make a joke, and I was like, that's the best victory I think I'm gonna get. I asked him because I was because I'm a big hat guy, right? I love hats. I'm always wearing a hat, and David Vincent is currently always wearing that cowboy hat, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, as a hat guy to a hat guy, I know how I love some of my hats, right? Let's say you were let's say you're playing one of those metal cruises or something, and a big wave hits the boat and the base is sliding and the hat's sliding, and you only have time to grab one. And he was not entertained as I thought he would be. He was not willing to have some fun about it. And I did get him to make a joke where he went where he basically just tried to pass on the question. I was like, oh, come on, bro, give me something here. It's an interview. It's got to be a little bit give and take. And he's like, well, here, I'll just say this. How about metal cruise not happening? And I was like, okay, there we go. That's the closest I'm getting a joke out of you. Let's move on. Whoa. Because David Vincent's a guy that's had some interesting fashion over the years, right? He has 100%. Changed his appearance, and I was like, I wonder if he'll be willing to engage about that.
Yeah.
Nope.
It was the other end of the extreme that we were talking about. There's you can self-aware, make fun of yourself, or just not.
Yeah, he's just not. I mean, and it's probably he's just not a guy that gets joked around with a lot either. He's just he's just an intense guy, and I don't think, because I think sometimes people mistake. I don't know if this is what he thought, but sometimes people will mistake. Some people will be like, "Oh, Blayne is joking around about this band. He doesn't respect this band, or he doesn't respect this person." I'm like, no, I make fun of everybody. It's easier to make fun of something if you respect it, because if you respect it, you know about it, you like it, and then you have more things to joke about. I got a bunch of. If there's a comedian that I meet and I respect them, I'm a hell of a lot more likely to make fun of them than a comedian I don't respect. Because if I make fun of a comedian I don't respect, it's probably I'm gonna realize afterwards, oh, I shouldn't have said that. That was not a polite joke to make, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was just used to getting more respect in his head, and because there are some people that do comment, oh, Blayne doesn't respect Morbid Angel. He was really hard on this album. And it's no, I was hard on that album. And I mean, not that David Vincent was on that album, but I was hard on that album because I respect Morbid Angel. And when you respect someone and they put out a fucking album like that, in my world, you fucking tell them they put out an album like that. And, so it was like, I was fucking dying in that interview. I wanted to run out of the room. And he was on the phone. He almost bullied me out of a room. Not actually bullied, but he almost like intimidated me out of a room when he was just on the phone. And I was there in person. I could have just hung that shit up, and I fucking would have more likely ran out of the room than hang up.
Yeah, I was definitely, that was one of the notes I had. I had to ask you about that because I know a little bit of the history of that, and I think it's just one of the coolest things because he is very intimidating. But
what was yours?
Mine was at Brutal Assault Festival in Czech Republic when they played, and Motorhead, rest in peace, Lemmy. Just went on stage, and we were standing side stage. Obviously, there was a bunch of tape and stuff. You're not allowed to stand around when Lemmy's playing. Goddamn, 4 Derpy Paws with another 5 gifted subs. Thank you. And David wanted the spot. They wanted to stand where we were, and it was just a very awkward interaction followed by then a security guard coming towards us. But it was very similar, where we kind of joked about it. We were like, oh, why do you get this spot? Is it because you have a cool hat? Kind of like everyone's drinking. We're watching Motorhead. It's a metal show. Yeah. We were with other big metal bands. Everyone was joking. It wasn't taken lightly.
Yeah. It's weird, man. It's so weird. This is a story DK and I have told, but man, when my default is that someone's joking. Like a lot of times is the way it goes in my head. We were backstage at Slayer during like the final Slayer tour, and we were talking to these two guys, and I don't want to say who the guys are because this is a very embarrassing story for them. And we were talking to two guys who were like it was like a guy in a band and his guitar tech, and they're in a band. It's not a band that necessarily you super respect, but it's a band that you would know, and Canadian band. And we're talking to them. We're just talking, and this fucking dude comes over, and the dude's in like a Slayer crew shirt from like 1998. This is like Slayer's fucking guy, and he's like fucking this big, fucking like a rectangle, like just fucking the shortest, jackedest guy you ever seen. And he comes up and he goes to the guitar tech. He goes, "What the fuck, bro?" And me and DK are like, "Oh, he's doing a bit." He's coming over and he's doing a bit. And we're like, oh, he's just goofing around, right? And then because the guy's kind of just like humming and hawing, and we're like, oh, he's just goofing around with him. These guys know each other. And then the dude just fucking boom in the face, just smacks the Slayer roadie, smacks this guy, and we're like, whoa, is that? And still in my head, I was like, well, that's a bit of a rough joke, but I guess they're still just joking around.
I guess that's their way of doing it.
And then he just starts fucking wailing on it. He's just like throwing. And we're like, oh, I guess it's not a joke. And then he turns to us, and there's like a railing between us and him because we were just kind of leaning over a railing talking. He's like, what's your fucking problem? And he grabs a chair and throws it at us, but it like gets tangled in the railing. And then a security guard comes over, and we're like, oh, I guess the security guard's going to diffuse this situation. But the security guard is just like venue security, right? So his rank falls below Slayer fucking security, dude. And so he just comes over. He just kind of puts his arm around us, and he's like, all right, boys, this is going down. You got to leave. And we're like, oh, shit. And then we just leave, and this guy gets beat up. But we almost just got beat up, too, because we were like, I just assumed this guy was fucking joking. And what it turns out was this guy went into Slayer's dressing room and was like, fucking tight show, homies. You did great. And there was signs everywhere, admittedly, about this. And it's like I wasn't sure if it was like an urban legend, but it's not an urban legend. Slayer does not want anyone in their dressing room at all. They do not want people in their dressing room before the show, after the show. They're in their dressing room. They do not want to be interacted with in their dressing room. And they just have a guy that'll tune you up if you do. So the lesson of this story is do not, under any circumstances, go into Slayer's dressing room.
Well, unfortunately, we can't anymore, but still, a good lesson. I mean, just take it as a metaphor. Just don't fuck with Slayer, generally.
Yeah.
That's a good lesson. Speaking of things being interpreted and the way, everything's a joke and stuff. I've never asked a comic this before, but what's your take on all the stuff that's been happening over the last couple of years, where with censorship and I know people call it like the PC culture and all that stuff. Where does that sit on your spectrum of things that you do? Because I know you're generally very proactive about certain things, but has anything ever backfired for you, or said something that you're like, shit, that's not gonna go down well anymore?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely in my life made jokes that then it was presented to me, it was told to me that, hey, I didn't appreciate that joke or something. And then my whole thing is like, I'm like, realistically, I know people get really sensitive about this. People get really like, oh, it's this battle. And it's like, in some cases, there's some times where it's heavy-handed and it's over the top. But realistically, man, if someone comes up to you and says like, hey, something you did like hurt me as a person, like my attitude is like, just fucking say sorry to that person, just apologize. Like you it doesn't sound like you care as much about that joke as that person does about, what that joke touched on for them. So like, man, it's just not worth it. Like, there's a point where things can get too much and you can start limiting expression and stuff like that. But there's also like, just everybody I think needs to like get a little less, both sides kind of criticize each other for the same kind of thing, where it's like, oh, just relax. You know what I mean? Like, but I do think that a lot of the times people need to we instinctively, when we get told we did something wrong, we get defensive, right? We go like, oh, but I've really learned that if someone comes up to you 9 times out of 10, if you say, oh, thank you for sharing with me, I apologize, that wasn't my intention, it's diffused. There's not even this big battle. The reason this big battle comes is because they push and you push back, and you get this pushback and this tug of war, and just say like, just say sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you as a person, and it smooths over most things. And I'm simultaneously a very left-wing guy, but if you watch my stream, I say some pretty wild shit too. But people can tell people can also tell when it's coming from a place and of fun and humor, and when it's coming from a place of like, you've got something that you haven't addressed inside yourself. And if someone comes up to you and says like, hey, that sounds like this to me, just stop and think for a minute before you react, would be my thing. I've definitely seen like there's been some heavy-handed stuff and some people have been negatively affected, but at the same time, I don't know, man, losing a comedy career versus, I don't know, getting murdered in the street is like not like there are people getting killed, and your comedy career, like you having to take a year off comedy because you said something spicy is like, nah, I don't know if the like suffering is equal, right?
That actually came up in a conversation with a metalhead from this side of the world, in terms of like, he was saying basically back in the day, like 10, 15 years ago, we would look to the West as like, that is what you could do. You could poke fun of things, you could, freedom of speech, all that stuff, because we couldn't have it here. Whereas here, if you said something offensive, or like even like you touched on with the Kiation, play some metal, you can get arrested. You can get your hair shaved and in jail for a week or two. And we always looked out to the West for like, these guys have that freedom of speech. And then slowly it started happening where it's like, Kevin Hart tweeted what? Like what? Why does he not exist anymore? Thank you for that lamp of good for Derpy Paws. Lamp of Good is a story why a band wanted to cover Lamb of God and Jordan, but the authorities need all the song titles and lyrics and everything before you play a show. So the band resorted to typing lamp of good instead of lamb of God, because that would have gotten them arrested. so now we have lamp of good merch, thanks to those guys. It was this weird, like, I completely understand when something is wrong, and if you own up to it, just say, fuck, I fucked up, I'm growing because of it. But the cancel culture, as Sandy said earlier in the chat, was something that still blows my mind. Blueberry Dogs 2, thank you so much for the follow, and Rexter, thank you so much for the biddies. You guys are fucking absolutely amazing today. Thank you so much, man.
Well, I do think it is like a thing to realize that we did get, for a period there, we had, we were having like some very free speech, right? And there's this thing where, speech was originally very restricted, right? And then it opens up, and then it opens up, and then it opens up. But there is a point where, free speech can go too far. I mean, I do stand-up comedy. I go to open mics. Open mics, the way an open mic works is literally anyone can show up, write their name down on a piece of paper, and go up, and they have a microphone to say whatever they want to a group of people.
When you put it that way, holy shit.
Yeah, right? Like, I've seen people go up and like call someone in the crowd the N-word. Like, Jesus. You know what I mean? Like, their set's gone poorly, and they're not getting the reaction they want, and they get mad, and then they say something offensive, and someone in the crowd gets offended, and then they call them the N-word. And
that fucking like, Kramer.
I've seen guys get mad at a woman in the crowd, and not because the woman is heckling them. Not a lot of times, male stand-up comedians they'll see a hot girl in the crowd, and they'll want to talk to her because they have a microphone, and she's kind of hostage. And I've seen girls just sit there and go like, basically like, I don't want to be talked to. Just don't talk to me. I'm not saying anything mean to you. And then, the guy starts calling them the C word, starts saying like some pretty like scary shit to them. And, it's like, you kind of let everything be free. And then you realize like, okay, well, things are getting a little out of hand for some people. There has to be some kind of restriction. And then as you're trying to contract and figure out where that border is, you're going to go too far the other way, right? You're absolutely, sometimes you're going to open things up, and then it's like, okay, this is getting a little open. A guy's tweeting out that all trans people need to be murdered. Like that's I think we can say that's not okay. So then you try and contract it in, and as you're trying to contract it in, you're going to go too far. And I think hopefully the whole process is just going, you're not going to nail free speech. Is a very complicated thing, right? Because you want your right to free speech, and you want to be able to say whatever you want, but you can say something that infringes on someone else's rights. Like if I threaten to kill someone because they're black, that is my free speech more important than that person's, safe, like personal physical safety, and thinking like, I'm not going to get murdered when I walk home. So, it's going to be reacted to differently. Like if you're in somewhere where you haven't had free speech, and you're like, okay, I can't wait to get that free speech over here. Let's get some of that free speech. And then before we send you the free speech, we start being like, nah, bro, you can't have that free speech. We're not doing that anymore. You're like, what the fuck, man? I didn't even get in on the good shit, and now it's getting all fucked up. That's not fair.
yeah, exactly. But no, you put it in a very, very, like a very, I don't have the word for it. Refined way. That's the word. It is a work in progress. Like the machine is working in a way where it's like, we gone too far. We've not done enough. Shit, we have to go back. That's a very very cool way of putting it. Gutcher subscribed to Tier 1 for 9 months. Thank you so much, my brother. Welcome. For those that are just joining us, !guest is we'll give you a little blurb and the link tree, and also we're going to be partying over at Metal Comedy's channel, his Twitch channel, right after this. So stick around, and we'll head on over there, and you guys can yell stuff at him. And I saw Lars just got upset that you said the C word instead of cunt. We're allowed to say cunt in this part of the world, but I know a lot of people find offense to it, Lars. That's why we might not have just jumped at it.
Yeah. Trust me. If you like, it's that thing, right? Where I don't have, that's not a word that's banned in my chat. Like it doesn't get auto-modded because I have British and Australian and viewers and they can say that word in a context and it's fun and it's jovial. If you hear the C word in North America, it's hard and aggressive. and it's good. It doesn't come off the same. And like in my life, I exclusively hear the C word like aggressively thrown at someone. I never hear like, there's a jangly accent that goes along when it's positive usually for me. So I don't say it. I understand that some people are in specific, some people are going to say words, and I'm not trying to police who says most words if it's not like directly like a racial slur.
Dude, I learned it the hard way. I learned that because I grew up in Sydney, Australia for the first half of my life. And then I moved to the Middle East where that word isn't necessarily frowned upon because a lot of the people, the expats from here are from England. They're British and Australians. I mingled with those guys the most. And then my first time in the States, I was at a Blind Guardian show in Arizona. It's a long story, but I was at a Blind Guardian show in Tucson, Arizona, and we were drinking with my friend outside, who's also someone from this side of the world. And someone said, "Who are you with?" And I said, "That cunt over there." And it was like a record scratch. Just everyone stopped. Everyone said, "What?" And I was like, "Oh, that douchebag over there, like that cunt over there, it's just the homie." And they're like, "Dude, that's not something you yell out at a show here."
Yeah. I mean, there's also right? Because there's the flip side of also people are like, "Oh, what, you're being sensitive," part of it is that you don't want to say it because you're probably going to upset a woman. There's also if you call someone the C word here and it's a dude, you might just get fucking popped. Like a guy might that's a little it's a spicy word to use here. We'll just say that. DK, what's up, dude?
DK is in his house. Can we get a huge shout out for Daniel DK? Hopefully your flight went well. I think you've been flying around recently, but DK's allowed to call. DK gets one free C word if it's directed at a plane. After I don't know if everyone's heard about DK's experience trying to get home from Psycho Las Vegas, but and Derpy Paws, thank you so much for the gifted sub to DK. What an absolute badass! You've topped all the fucking goals we've had for today's show. Thank you so much, Derpy. And the Click Commander, there we go. Is that
that's less spicy? It sounds similar and it's less spicy. It's like it's medium. It's you get a Chipotle and you ask for medium. That's what you get.
That's what you get. I also wanted to talk to you about writing in general.
Yeah.
And then Heavy Metal Hitchhikers specifically.
Yeah.
When writing stand-up is I would assume a little different to writing a comedy series or a sketch or a film for that matter. How did those worlds start merging?
It's a really common thing for comedians. It's totally different. It's super different. But stand-up comedy is like, it's one of those things that people like really love but don't necessarily like appreciate. It's kind of hard to describe, but it's really difficult to make a living as just a comedian. Like people like going to comedy, but the amount of times I've had someone after a show talk to me and go, "Oh, that was great. That was our first stand-up show." And they're like 35 and you're like, your first stand-up show. Well, why did you come? Oh, well, we watch stand-up on Netflix like every night. We watch stand-up specials more than anything else. It's like, and this is your first time coming to see live comedy? And they're like, yep. And you're like, oh, fuck. Because like, you don't really get that with music, right? No, people aren't 35 being like, wow, this is my first concert. You know, like
I've only ever watched S&M, but I've never seen the local band.
Like, right? Like most people's first concert, they're like 14 or something, right? Like my first concert, I went to see Sum 41 at the El Macombo. It was like a tiny club. It was like their record release party. And I was like, that was the first concert I went to like alone.
Way cooler than my first concert.
My technical first concert was my parents took me because they couldn't find a babysitter when they went and saw Bryan Adams. That's my
Still cool.
That's my
Still
real
cool.
first
Listen,
concert.
I moved from Sydney, Australia to Qatar. It's one of the tiniest countries in the Middle East, and the very first concert we ever had in that country was Shaggy when I was 14.
Nice.
So we went to a Shaggy concert.
That's actually pretty Shaggy. That's very funny. That's very funny.
Shaggy in the
great.
desert.
I love
that was
it.
what it was called. And
I mean, he was in Desert Storm. So he was at home. he was serving in Desert Storm. He popped over to do a quick show. Went back.
He knew exactly where everything was. It was amazing.
Yeah. He probably had a lot more fun that trip.
Yeah, it was a crazy time. We were just getting into metal as well, and we thought it'd be funny to try and start a mosh pit. And you know, the people there just had no idea what we were doing, and it turned into a fight, and we bailed, and the venue just burst into a massive fight. But there's a whole generation of people growing up in Qatar that are around 30 to 35 now that remember that concert. It's
right.
amazing.
So I mean,
how did it merge?
So it as a result, like it's like fucking pulling teeth to get people to go see comedy. A lot of people will watch like a stand-up special on Netflix, but they won't buy like a comedy album there. And because they don't see you, they don't know about your merch and stuff. So you making a living as a comic, just doing comedy is hard. So and that's what we all just want to do, but we can't. So we find the next closest thing, which is like, fine, I'll just write some jokes and in the loose form of a story. Fine, you forced my hand. So it's always been kind of, since I started comedy, I'm very much a realist. I'm not expecting to be like some arena selling out guy that just gets to go around and just tell jokey jokes. I mean, even you just kind of have to, and it's similar muscles, and it's fun, and it's cool to like kind of put something there and then see it actually get created and come out. One of the first things I did when I started stand-up comedy is me and some buddies made like a web series ourselves that's like super janky and is still up on YouTube called The Shithawks. And it's just like, you know, you just wanna tell jokes at the end of the day. And if you can't tell them in your exact preferred form, you can either be a baby or you can slightly kind of make a shift.
I wanted to play the trailer for Heavy Metal Hitchhiker for everyone to see, just in case anyone watching hasn't seen it yet. And while we do that, you guys redeem the questions. The questions thing. We'll go through everybody's questions, and then we'll jump over to MetalComedy channel in about 10 minutes. So let's watch this trailer. Do you have? I mean, I've heard you say you pulled a lot of the situations from real life situations that you've had. Is there anything in particular that stands out before we play this trailer?
I mean, I can, if you want some hitchhiking stories, I can tell you some hitchhiking stories afterwards. We can just do the full stories. There was it's been that hitchhiking's fun. Most people probably can't do it where they live, but if you can, and you're not super murderable, I would suggest hitchhiking at least once in a while. Unless you're very murderable, then don't hitchhike. I'm clearly not like a super murderable guy, right? There's kind of that coin flip with hitchhiking, right? Hitchhiking's dangerous because as the hitchhiker, you might get murdered, and hitchhiking's dangerous because when you pick up a hitchhiker, they might murder you. I fall more into the people would assume I would murder them camp. So I don't think any murderer is going to pick me up because think about how awkward that would be if if you were trying to murder a hitchhiker and then you picked up a hitchhiker that was trying to murder you, that would be like that David Vincent interview all fucking over again.
That's why you don't shave your head. I remember hearing that as well.
Yeah. The long hair helps blunt the harshness of my general appearance, right? It's you shave the head and it's a lot of white power and meth vibes I'm putting out there.
All right, we're gonna play this trailer right now. You guys, like I said, redeem any questions you have, and we'll ask Blayne right after this. Enjoy.
What's your name, Joseph?
No Joseph, just Mitch.
I found a guitar. I'm gonna become a roadie.
Never give up on your dreams, Mitch.
When I bring that guitar to Rager, they'll make me their roadie. Why would you pick me up in the middle of a hypothetical first-degree double homicide?
I'm lonely.
My dad was a roadie named the Eagle.
Your dad had my back.
Did I mention the roadie blood?
Ride like the ginger wind.
Was vegans about to eat shit? You know so much about Rager.
Fucking right I do.
I got some Black Dahlia murder, Nile, some Bathory, possessed. Where am I? Blayne Biscuit?
Limp Biscuit can suck my... No need to profane the biscuit.
I love that you picked Limp Bizkit to be your thing in the series, because it's I heard you say that you had to pick something that you would laugh at playing as well. You just went to the other extreme.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? I just want to that was a very funny day in the woods. That was a funny day in the woods, and then also I posted a photo on my Instagram. In the middle of the day, we were just we needed lunch, and so we just went to there was a local little strip mall with a Hero Burger and that kind of stuff. And so we went, but we were we're not going to change out of wardrobe to go eat. So we're just there was I don't know whether they were tourists or whether they were just wow, this is weird to see here. But there was this Asian family that asked if they could take a picture of me, and I was like, hell yeah, because I was just in a full ghillie suit in a fast food burger restaurant.
The itty bitty biscuit there from DK.
Yeah, that was also something that I was just it was written a lot less, and then in the moment I was like, no, let's just keep going with bit as long as we can. Let's just go. I'm sure there was an extra 30 seconds of us bouncing back and forth doing on that they had to cut.
Let's run through a bunch of the questions before we jet. And but just before we do that, I just want to say thank you so much for your time, man. It's been awesome getting to know you. And like I said, I said the same thing to DK. The first time you jump on one of these things, I feel like I already know you because you watch a stream and you get to know the person's personality kind of thing. And I'm just stoked we get to hang out.
Yeah, so, man. It's nice because you kind of get that back where it's the interviews that you do when someone hasn't watched your stream or something. It's just it definitely feels more like an interview. They have some questions written down. With this, it's there's a back and forth too. I'm asking you questions. It's not it's not a one-way street.
Yes, sir. I absolutely love that. And we're gonna jump through the questions right now. Bleeding. With a heavy hitter right off the bat. What's the heaviest Death Doom band you can name?
Heaviest. There's I'll still say that ow, my cat's biting me. The first two Hooded Menace records are if you want heavy Death Doom, I think that's a band that did it perfectly and really kind of one of the kind of few, and I feel like the Hooded Menace really kind of kicked off this like new wave of Death Doom we got, because most of Death Doom was originally like a little more on the Doom than the Death side, except for of course Winter, and Winter is another really good one. That was something I really championed on the Death Doom episode, and I wish that was a band that was still around, but that is a very good record, a very heavy, very good Death Doom record.
There you go, Bleeding. Hopefully that answers your question. Derpy is asking, I was told to ask why Blayne has a tattoo of a sword handle with a dagger blade.
I have a tattoo of a sword that goes down to my dick. It doesn't go onto my dick, but it goes to it. It's a thing. It's a thing that people love to joke about, and I got it partially as a joke. Obviously, I'm not being super serious about it, but I'll just say this: I spend a lot of time at the nude beach, and the tattoo. No one asks any questions about it at the nude beach.
There you go, Derpy. There you go. It's a thing. It's a thing. Manic says it's a thing that happens.
Honestly, it seems like, and I think you have to be a certain type of person to pull off this tattoo. But it's like, it was when I was single, it was like a real conversation piece.
Want to see my sword collection? Is it?
It was, because there's someone scrolls through your Instagram, they happen to notice it, and there's a couple photos of you at the beach or something, and then they ask a question about it, and you're like, yeah, and then it's a nice icebreaker.
A Zombie Soup saying, pull off this tattoo. Yeah, everyone in the UK is like, yes, he said pull it off.
Let's go.
And,
yeah, I love it.
DK, thank you so much thank you so much for that, man. It means the world to me. You're an absolute badass. RamiLebmetal.com. Which country surprised you the most with metal finding, or with the metal you found in that country?
I think like we said, it's not, the scenes aren't big enough to really have like distinct country scenes, but the Middle Eastern scene was like really surprising, and then also just really cool, because it was like you said, there was such a reaction from the community, and then the community really interacted with me, and that was really cool to see, like just a whole bunch of people being stoked and like wanting to be like, yay, finally. So we've been out here in the ocean. Someone finally tossed us a life preserver. Everyone else on the ship is just a selfish prick. So that was really cool. And then we've got Overkill Global season 2 coming up soon. That's starting up soon. And there's some other sweet finds in there. I'm
very stoked about that as well. It's what you guys are doing on Banger TV, and what you guys are doing on your individual platforms and stuff. I said it before, like there's a push, especially recently. I don't know, man. We talked about like Twitch and its part in rock and metal coming back in a much bigger form. You guys are pushing it. You guys are putting it back on the map. So very much grateful for that, and inspiring people like myself to do these things and do reviews. Slowly we're starting a YouTube channel, and it's all stuff that you guys have perfected, so it's very cool.
I do have to say, oh shoot, Ryan,
I was gonna ask the last question. Ryan says, any tips for hitchhikers that might be closer to murderable on that part of the spectrum?
It's harder to pick up rides, but you can do 2 people. I hitchhike with a friend. There people are less likely to pick you up, but you can get picked up with 2 people. So maybe you have a friend that's like slightly less murderable than you, or maybe about equally as murderable to you, but the 2 of you combine to make one non-murderable person. That would be my joke answer. And then my serious answer, if you are kind of curious, there's like a whole like wiki. There's like a hitchhiking wiki, and it'll tell you like it gives you like tips. Like it'll be like, hey, if you're hitchhiking from Toronto, here's a good on-ramp to stand by. When people like, there's there's a one of the really useful things that it tells you is it'll tell you like, because usually you'd be like, I'm hitchhiking from Toronto to Montreal. No one picking you up is going to Montreal. They're going, you'll have to get like 3 rides to get somewhere. And there'll be tips you didn't even think about in this thing where it's like, hey, make sure you don't accept if someone offers you a ride to Kingston, you don't get off in Kingston because no one will pick you up in Kingston because there's a very large prison in Kingston, Ontario. So anytime there's hitchhikers, everybody's going to assume you're from the prison. So don't take a ride to Kingston.
See, this is a completely different world. We don't hitchhike over here. There's nowhere to go. We can't even fucking cross borders over here. So it's a completely different world. Hopefully that answers your question, Ryan. And dude, thank you so much, like I said, for your time and for having this conversation. We're gonna do a lot more of these. I've been pitching more collaboration things to all the Twitch heavy people, and I'd love to do like a deep dive into Middle Eastern metal with you or something. We can work this out. We can find a cool kind of theme that we deep dive.
I'm absolutely down. Just remember, the strat with me is ambush me on my Twitch stream and I'll lock in a date with you live. Because otherwise I'm going to just put my phone down and then it's gone from my mind.
I've got it down to a science now. I know exactly where to go. We'll lock something in very soon.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for the claps.
Woo!
There's that little woo in the corner. What do we got going on today on the MetalComedy Twitch stream?
I think we're gonna try. I've been just trying games lately because I don't know. I've been having a sense of video game ennui. There's Blayne needs constant reminders. Yeah, DK can relate to the issue. There is a vampire battle royale game that I'm gonna try. So it's like Fortnite but with vampires. Although there might just be vampires in Fortnite. I don't know. They've got all kinds of dancing and slurp juice.
I have a Mac, so I don't know anything about gaming. Still, I play CS:GO and it freezes at 720p. But thank you so much for being here, and you guys don't go anywhere. We're gonna wait until Blayne goes live. And then we're just going to move this party on over there. So grab whatever beverage you're drinking, whether it's midnight like it is here or a coffee at 4 p.m. I don't know, coffee? Do you guys have coffee at 4 p.m.? I don't know. Some people might have coffee at 4 p.m. But yeah, let's do this. Thank you so much for everything, man.
Hell yeah. We
officially like to end the episodes with the guest saying the words "hit the outro," but I have to be careful because last time we did this where it was supposed to be a raid over. I clicked the outro, which is a micro key that also ends the stream. So we're gonna try and not do that. I'm just gonna click it straight from OBS. And then I'll be back. So for this section of the podcast, thank you guys for listening to us blabber on for a little while. This episode will also be up on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the stuff, the audio listening platforms tomorrow morning, UAE time. And yeah, thank you guys for all the follows, for the fucking hype train, all the bits, everybody that subbed. You guys are absolute beasts. Blayne, any last words to the crazies out there?
The last words are supposed to be hit the outro, right?
The very last words are supposed to be hit
very last words. Well, here we'll do a callback, and I'll say hit the outro like James Hetfield saying hit the lights. How about that?
Let's go.
All right. Hit the outro.